Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is up? What is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of Sales Tales. So I was in this house. I am your host. My name is Everett, and a couple of announcements. You'll notice this very snazzy hat that I have on right here. It's quite a snazzy hat. And on it says JB Warranties. And it was given to me by my good friends Tate and Brian over at JB Warranties, and it looks real snazzy and I love them. So when you listen to this, guys, I just want to let you know that I really appreciate the hat. So that being the case, this has been an interesting week because I mentioned it last week on the podcast that I was approached by something very unique. So there's a new show on Netflix called The Program. And if you have seen this show, it is about these behavioral modification schools that were designed for teenagers. And they went through, the most incredible, tragic abuse that you could possibly imagine. I mean, borderline torture. They were completely taking advantage of the teachers they weren't really even teachers. The faculty and the owners of these organizations were hoodwinking. They sold these parents a bill of goods, and it was a horrific outcome on the other end. Well, I was approached with the popularity of the show, I was approached by an ex-student who wants to actually come on and tell their story of what happened. They were in one of these behavioral modification schools, and they want to come on. They want to tell their story. And there's a few women that want to come on and tell this story. I'm kind of flattered in a way that they want to tell the story on this medium. Pretty neat. And I guess the sales tales aspect of this was, these people were sold a bill of goods. They were sold this behavioral modification from these teachers, from these whatever salespeople that really sold them, a really traumatic experience. So I'm really excited about that. That'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. As of right now, it's booked for next Thursday. That might move, but I'll keep everybody posted. I'm going to do a pre-post on that. Okay, so that being the case, today we have an individual who I was in this in-home sales sort of group online, and I met the most amazing woman. This woman has spent a tremendous amount of time, 25 plus years in the in-home sales business. And I'm going to bring her on here. Her name is Barb Austin, and she's from Wisconsin. And you're from the same town that Stephen Avery's from, aren't you?
Yeah, I grew up there, yes.
Crazy. So Barb,
yeah,
you weren't friends. You didn't know him.
No, I used to go to his junkyard, though, just because my dad owned a car lot.
Wow.
So
Barb, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Introduce yourself. Tell the people of the world and who are going to listen to this podcast who you are and why you are on this show.
Okay. Well, I've spent, probably 25. You're being nice saying 25 because it's probably been 30 or 35. So, sales started in flooring, went to school for interior design, and spent almost 25 years doing flooring in Appleton, Wisconsin. And then after that, I worked at Tundraland, and amazing company, and did Kohler walk-in tub sales and jacuzzi sales, showers, tubs. And then I am now currently at Renewal by Andersen, the best window on the market. So, and I love it.
So you're at Renewal by Andersen. I'm gonna have to. I don't know if it's mine or yours. I'm gonna give me 1 second here. There's
Okay.
a bit of a technical difficulty here. Hold on. Well, that was interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So, Renewal by Andersen and
Renewal
25
by
years in
Andersen.
flooring sales, right? And you
Yep.
designed like Kohler jacuzzis and bathrooms and whatnot.
Kohler walk-in tubs, jacuzzi walk-in tubs, Kohler showers, jacuzzi showers. So I sold a lot of things. Flooring, it was fun. I did a lot of parade homes and designed some beautiful homes for people, and it was fun. I love it.
Mm. But so tell me about this. You said you grew up on a car lot?
My dad owned a used car lot, so I actually started. The funny thing is, we were very poor, and which I didn't really realize we were. But I used to actually set up little tables, and in the little driveway, and I would actually take rocks and I would go inside and wash the rocks, and then I would put them on the tables and sell them. Um, and so I mean, I was very young. I mean, I was probably 6. So, and people probably bought them just because they felt bad for me.
You
And then
sold
Girl
you sold
Scouts,
you
I was
sold
Girl
rocks.
Scouts. I
You
sold
sold rocks.
rocks. The rocks
Sold
that were on
rocks.
the ground, I would wash them and put them on little tables. And so,
Yeah.
so I think sales was in my blood. And then I sold Girl Scout cookies because I was a Girl
Mhm.
Scout for a long time. And I always had the top sales just because whoever got the top sales, you got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So it
You
was,
wanted cool stuff.
yeah, I wanted the cool stuff. So,
I like cool stuff.
but I grew up in an era where, we'd get up in the morning and not come home till the sun went down. So it was a
Yeah.
different era back then. you know, Once the sun
Yeah.
started going down, little town, it was very safe. So, we just rode our bikes everywhere and it was fun. It's good time growing up. Little town.
And did you first learn like sales tactics and whatnot? Because you said your dad was a mechanic too. Like,
He was a
was he a good
mechanic.
salesman?
Yeah. Yeah. He was a good
Yeah.
salesman, mechanic. And my mom was like, she's in charge of everything. So you just learn. I think it's more taking the sales and being able to just be really, really nice to people and treat them in their home with respect and, treat them how I want to be treated or my parents so if you can combine all of that, I think that's why I do well because I have my dad's traits of the sales part of it because he's really good. And from my mom, I got the really kind, not that my dad's not nice, but I got the really kind part that, you just take care of people. And so I
Mm.
got kind of the best of both of that. So I feel that's why I do so well because I'm able to connect with people and really, because you really have to care about people. You can't go in someone's house and just pretend like you care about people. That's not genuine and they can sense that.
What's your coolest car lot story?
Oh gosh, I don't know if there's any cool car lot stories.
Well,
I
you
mean,
were a kid, right? You were a kid, you're
I
wandering
was
around, you're kicking rocks on in the
yeah.
parking lot there, trying not to tick off the customers, trying not to, right? Dad's got to sell a car so you guys can eat.
Yeah, so I mean, I turned 16. My dad, he's like, "Okay, I had to pay for my own car. I had a job at Hardee's. That was my job. And he got
Ooh.
me a 76 Nova
Mm.
and that was a good car and a bad car because I had a really hard time driving the speed limit, so I got lots of tickets, and there was a time when I was leaving school, and again, Mishicot's small, so I'm leaving school, got pulled over in front of this. I know who it was who called him, and I got pulled over in front of her house, and by the time I got home, my dad already knew that I got pulled over, so that's the kind of town I came from. So you couldn't get away with anything. Even that was
So you
before
got
cell
pulled over
phones.
by a cop. You got pulled over by a cop in Wisconsin, and the cop
Wisconsin.
actually just called your dad and said,
Oh, not
"Hey,
the cop. It was a woman in the
oh,
house. It was it
oh,
was the late.
woman saw you
Yeah.
speeding by, and she's like, your
No,
daughter
she saw
Barb
me.
is speeding
Yeah.
down the block here."
She no, she saw me sitting out front of her house getting pulled over. So she called my dad, and
Ah,
yeah, she called my dad and told my dad she saw me pulled over. So yeah, you can't get away with anything.
that's funny. Small town stuff.
It
So when did you get into or how did you get into, like, in home sales, right? Kitchen table, sitting at the
okay.
kitchen table.
Then I moved to Appleton for interior design for school, and in during that in school you had to have internships. So I interned at a couple different flooring stores, and then I was at Mako's, which is a real popular, really good store here in Appleton, Green Bay area, and love the
Are
family.
you a
Bought
Packer?
them.
Are you a Packers fan?
Can I plead the fifth? No, I'm not really. I'm not a football fan.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
I'm not. I don't. I just. I don't
That's
like.
rare, right? Like, you're from Green Bay,
It's rare.
Wisconsin. Like, it's like you've got to be a Packers fan.
Yeah, but it's. You don't. I love the Brewers. I'm a Paul Molitor fan. So,
Oh, I
but
like
that's.
water.
I love Paul Molitor. He's my dream man. If but he's old, and he's
Yeah, he
married,
might
and so am
he
I.
he
So
might be he might be in his 70s at this point in
yeah,
time.
he's a little too
Maybe his
old for me
80s. Who
now,
knows? Yeah,
right? But yeah,
yeah.
so Paul Molitor. I'm a huge Paul Molitor fan. So
So
that was
you went to school for design, and
yeah.
then you got into sales somehow
I
from
got
design.
into basically because we had to do an internship, and my first day at this little tiny store, Mo Creek Carpet, it was downtown Appleton, and my first day, he's like, "Yeah, here," like I'm 17 years old, and he goes, "Well, I'm leaving," so I'm there at the store by myself. Never like I had no idea what I was doing, and so people start coming in, and I'm like, I have no idea. So I stayed there for 2 years, and then I went to Baco's. I was there for 10 years. So I kind of fell into that, but I
Hmm.
really liked flooring. And then I was at
And
Total Floor Covering, and that was 17 years. So I was there for a long time. I did a
wow,
long
you're
time.
a lifer. You are such a
Uh,
lifer.
yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, in your flooring days, what's any craziness happen? Any crazy stories from your flooring days? It's got to be interesting, right?
Flooring, oh gosh. I don't know I'm trying to think of some stories from flooring. Just
You spent
good.
17 years doing it, didn't
Oh,
you?
I know, but yeah. I mean,
Craziness.
probably from flooring, probably I have good stories. I have stories that like I had a older couple. They were in their 70s probably, and they adopted me. So they were my grandma and grandpa. We used to go to dinner, and and then when my grandma died, they like had me at the funeral, and the whole family was like, "Oh, this is our cousin Barb," and so, I mean, I've had families like take me in, and I had a wonderful lady named Monica. She was from Chilton, and it literally, this is how patient I am. This lady took 10 years, and I'm not kidding. It took her 10 years to pick out her floor, her carpet, because no, it was her vinyl floor. It took 10 years. She would come in and see me every single Friday when she came to Appleton, and she would look at the floors, and she was just the greatest person. Just, I loved her to
Wait.
pieces.
Hold on. We gotta. Do you think there was something? I mean, there had to be something wrong, right? Like, some kind of OCD, some kind of something for
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
to take. Yeah, like coming in every Friday to look at something and then not buying that until 10 years later.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And yeah, and then I even switched stores and she followed me. And yeah, she's just the greatest lady. I just loved her.
So she
And
came in to see you, really?
yeah, yeah, she came
So for
in
10 years,
every
this woman came
10
in on
years.
Friday.
She
Every
came in
single every
every
single
single
week, she
Friday.
came in to see you for 10
Yeah,
years, every
for 10
Friday.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. She was
I've heard that life.
just a, yeah, you just build relationships with people. That's the thing. Even in when I was in flooring though, it took a long time sometimes for people to decide because,
Yeah,
when you're
like a
building,
month or two. Not
yeah.
not like yeah.
Oh yeah, 10 years, yeah. So she passed away this last year, which I'm sad, but she she and I, I gave her a hard time until she was gone that it took her 10 years, but she was just the nicest lady I had ever met.
Wow. A decade. Am I the only one that finds this to be am I the only one that finds that to be so crazy? Like, I mean, in a good, kind of bad, kind of weird
In a
way.
good
It's like
way. I mean,
crazy. It's like, wow.
yeah, it's like
Um,
I said, it's really sales is about really building relationships. And um if you build a good relationship with a customer, when I left flooring, I had people texting me and they're like, well, now what am I going to do? We've been buying from you for 20 years. Now, what am I going to do? Because now you're
mm,
leaving the industry. And I was one of the, I was probably one of the best that, wouldn't say the best, but I was in the whole Appleton area. Everybody knew who I was.
mm. You're the guy. Like everybody like, hey, you got to go to my guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Barb's my guy.
That's yeah. And I knew everybody too, because they're like, hey, we need concrete poured. Who do we call? Call Barb. She knows somebody. Or, I got to get a roof done. Who should we
Mm,
call? Or do you know Barb? Do you know an electrician? Like, sure, I got one in my phone. I'll get him out there for you. I mean,
mm,
people would call me and they wanted to know, who everybody, to use. And I mean, like I said, I have lists of names of, people, contractors. I'd be in someone's house doing a shower and she needed a contractor to come and help her with her basement. So I'm standing in her house. I called up my friend Steve and I said, hey, I need someone to come over here and finish off this lady's basement for her. Okay, I'll come there next week. So
mm. Yeah,
it's
true service, true service. That so
yeah.
when did you leave the flooring industry? And what did you go into? Did you immediately go into windows and doors?
No, I went to Tundraland, which is, I don't know if you heard of Tundraland. Brian got
Oh
me.
yeah, you
Brian
went to go
is,
sell cars.
nope, I went to sell tubs, showers.
Tubs.
Yeah.
Tubs.
I actually never sold cars,
You
crazy
did when
enough.
you were a little kid. You didn't know
Mm.
this, but you inspired your father to sell more cars, and by osmosis, you sold cars.
Oh, okay. That's probably
Yeah,
true.
my dad owned a company growing up. Anybody that's talked to me, my dad had he would take me along when I was like 14. He wasn't like a kid dad. He was like a teenage dad, you know what I mean? Like it was like and he'd be
Yeah.
like he was from, he was kind of like hard-nosed guy from Brooklyn and he'd be like, "Hey, get in the truck. We're going to take sales calls this weekend." And I'd go in with him and like at 14, like he'd teach me how to cold call. He'd teach me how to
Okay.
make he'd teach me how to make relationships with people. He'd teach me how to talk to people. He'd teach me how to, just knock on doors. Just say, "Hey, can I help you?
Right.
Let me show you what I've got." And that's how he established the whole business that way. And he did really, really well just by being their guy. And
Sure.
I learned so much. He gave me like the core, the foundation, and I'm successful today because of that foundation. So I totally understand that. When you said to me when we were talking, figuring out you coming on this podcast, you said, it's like in my blood, it's like in my
Oh
DNA, and
yeah.
I think listen, it's a learned skill. You have to learn the art of sales, but it most definitely lives inside of you if you start at such an early age of learning how to serve people and do right by
Right.
them. I think that unfortunately sales gets a bad rap in a lot of ways, but the people like you and I who are doing the right thing every single day and serving people every single day, I mean, this is, like you said, like salt of the earth kind of stuff. So
Right.
uh yeah. But so go ahead. So you went to go sell tubs.
So yeah, I left Total Floor. I was working at Total Floor Covering, that was a great place too. I loved it. And I went to work for I actually was leaving, kind of a crazy story. Wasn't planning on leaving. You know how it is sometimes when you're in sales, there's certain when you're working inside an office area, there's people that you might work with that might not be as on the up and up. I had somebody who was stealing customers from me, let's just put it that way. So I was
Mm,
like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna go, and I was I was doing cold calling. And so I would, because we had to find our own customers. We didn't advertise a lot, so I was really good at networking. I was amazing at networking.
mm,
And so I was going to Tundraland, and they were they do tubs, and I had a customer. They're like, hey, you need to go there and talk to them about selling them floors because they don't do floors. So I went there. I didn't know who the owner, I didn't know anything about him. Um, I was Brian Gottlieb, which if you don't know Brian, you need to know Brian. He's awesome. He was walking out. I was walking in, and I didn't know who he was because I didn't really research the company. I just went there, and I walked in, and I said, oh, you work here? And he said, yeah, I'm the owner. And I said, well, I want to talk to you about selling flooring to you. And I, he's like, well, here's my card. And I went back to my office, and I sat down, looked him up because I probably should have done that before I went there. And I saw something about, how, like they're hiring salespeople, designers. And I'll be honest, there's not a lot of money in floor covering. You don't make, it's not a
mm,
lot of profit. We used
mhm,
to joke it was a nonprofit, because there's just not a lot of money in floor covering. So I was like, well, I sent him a text. I said, well, I'm not really looking for a job, but I'd be willing to talk to you. And so 2 days later, he had me in, and they had not they had one other female salesperson at one time, but this is a man's world. I mean,
mm,
you know that this
mhm. Yeah.
sales as a whole is men. And so
Well, it's a lot different today. I
it's
mean,
a lot
there's a
different
lot.
today. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the in-home sales world, I will agree in many cases, like flooring and windows and doors and all this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, 90% men. But yeah,
Right.
but some of the best I've seen are obviously, I mean, you're sitting in front of me, and I know you're going to go
Yep.
into the fact that you became, right? You became the best salesperson there.
Top. Yeah.
You won all the awards.
I,
So
yep.
yeah, yeah.
So
But it's also your demeanor, right? It's your demeanor.
yeah.
It's how you handle yourself.
Right. So I went in, and because they had never really had females for salespeople there, they had one, and it was probably like 25 guys in sales at the time. When they sold windows at the time, and tubs. And so when I went in for my interview, there was like 10 people, and I'm like, holy shit! Like why are all these people here? And one of my the Paul, awesome. I love Paul. And he said to me, he said, well, how much money do you make in flooring? And I said, I don't know, like 40 to 50,000, maybe 60. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to make that here. And I'm like, oh, all right, well then thanks. Cause he's like, you're going to make double. And I'm like, what? Like, I can make double what I was. So it turns out I made a lot more than that, but I don't want to talk about that. But well, because I started 2016, end of 2016. I started in November 2016, I think. So turned out I was pretty good at it. And the joke was we had a guy named Kyle, Kyle Sellers. I gotta call out some of these awesome people. So Kyle was my trainer, and he always joked that, not a girl can't do that. A girl can't do that. You're not, so we joked about how, girls can do it. So
Mm,
so
yeah.
it's pretty cool. So yeah, and a year or two later, I was in his office and he goes, "Where the hell did you come from?" And because I totally excelled. I mean, I just went into these homes because the thing is you can't go into somebody's house like you're on a car lot,
Mm.
and some of
Yeah,
these people,
it's their home. It's their
yeah.
home.
So
You are inside of their house.
right,
Yeah,
right. So
it's very
so
different.
you don't treat it like you're on a car lot. You're in their space. You're treating them how you want. Like I treat people like I want my mom and dad to be treated, or something like
Speaking
that.
of which, I heard you mentioned that you at one point in time you had a very interesting altercation with an individual where in Milwaukee, and you were held hostage.
Oh, it was held. Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't
Why don't
actually.
you
It was
why
close.
don't you walk that
Oh
back? I'd be
gosh.
interested to hear this story. What happened? Paint the picture. What kind of call was it?
It was a Kohler walk-in tub, and we used to if they called in, no matter where it was, you had to go. We covered the whole state. So I went anywhere from Kenosha all the way up to Ashland, which is 5 hours the other direction. So Wisconsin from tip to tip is actually a lot. It's pretty big. So we
Mm,
covered the whole state. So if they called in, so this was in Milwaukee. It was in the hood in Milwaukee. So I need to say that, but
mhm,
um, which we had to go. I mean, that was our thing. Well, this guy wanted um, a walk-in tub for the first floor and a walk-in tub for the basement. He wanted two walk-in tubs.
mm.
And so in the conversation, he said something about, well, if I don't if I don't actually make the payments, do they come and take them back out? Which, yeah, okay, that's a red flag because
Mm,
obviously he wasn't planning on paying for them. So then but I had to, do my thing. I had to talk. I obviously can't just leave the house. So he wanted to, he's like, okay, I'm gonna get financed, and um, I said, so, because we filled it out there, and I'm like, so what do you do for a living? And he's like, well, I'm disabled, so I don't really have an income. I'm like, okay, so you kind of have to have an income. Like, if you want these tubs, you want to get approved for finance, you have to have an income of some sort. Like, do you have another income? And he said, yeah, I'm a drug lord. And I'm like, awesome. All right. So I'm filling out the thing, and I'm like, drug lord. Okay, fill out the, how much money do you
Did you
make as a
really
drug
write
lord?
drug lord on the
Oh, hell yeah.
application?
Yeah, I did. You had to type it in. So because at this point, I'm just humoring him because honestly, I knew the best way, because I knew it was a bad situation. There were four men in this house, of which I don't mean to bring up color, but they weren't white. They were nice guys, but they were smoking pot. Like, this guy was so high, he was literally walking in circles, like literally going in circles, and he was it was crazy. But and then his friend, he he grabs my hand and he said, "I'm gonna make sure you get out of here okay." And then I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, what does he mean? But like, I wasn't even at that point, because I'm kind of naive. I mean, I'm from little town. I didn't, so he's like, "I'll make sure you get out of here okay." I'm like, well, now you're freaking me out, because and then the guy, he's like, okay, if you don't approve me for financing, you're racist. And I'm like, okay, you have to have an income. I don't care what color you are. I love everybody. Like,
Right, and you're not the
but
bank. Like you put it,
yeah,
you
and
like, dude. I enter it into
yeah,
an app, and
right,
it tells me whether you're approved or not. Okay,
right.
so
And so
wow.
he's like, if you don't get me approved, you're not leaving here. Like, you're not leaving here until I get my tubs. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my finance guy. His name was Tim. I'm like, I'm gonna get him on the phone. And so I get him on the phone, and this guy, he's like going in circles talking on the phone, and he's saying to Tim, he goes, she's not leaving this house until I get my tubs. And Tim's freaking out because he's like, should I call the cops? Should I, like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, look, I'm like, I said to him, let's just write it up. Like, let's just do it. Like, let's write it up. We'll get you your tubs. You're good to go. Because I thought, the safest way for me to get out of this house was just let him think he's getting his tubs. Because
Yeah, it's so smart.
obviously I don't have them in my pocket. So he's going to have to, like,
Wait for him.
he's going to have to wait for him. So I'm like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's write it up. I'm like, we'll write up your tubs. And so we wrote it up, and thank God, right as kind of it was all wrapping up, a friend, a female, showed up at the house to drop something off. It was right after I got his signature. I grabbed my stuff and I said, you know what? It was awesome meeting you. Thank you so much. I have to go, and bolted out of the house. So, and I was there for like 3 hours while this guy was like smoking pot in the house. And I'm like, oh man. And I left the house and I was kind of hungry for a cheeseburger. So, not going to lie to you, because it was, it was crazy. It was just crazy.
It was time for a cheese. It was time for a cheeseburger. Wait, okay.
Yeah.
So that's nuts. And I mean, you must have been so scared. Were you scared? Were you like really scared, like fearful?
Honestly, no. I didn't realize I could have been in a bad situation until I was out of the house, because then, then I was like, okay, that could have ended really bad, but I knew I had to keep him calm. I had to keep him, I had to let him think he was getting his tubs, that, and if I let him think he was getting them, I knew he was going to let me leave, because he thought he was going to get tubs.
Yeah, so that was so smart of you to do that, because otherwise, I mean, who knows what would have happened. Now, was he like irrational in some sort? Like, he was obviously irrational, but like, was he somewhat mentally unstable, or what do you think? Like, he was just a violent guy?
I probably mentally unstable. He seemed a little bit, yeah. But like I said, there was a couple other people in the house, and I knew the one person that was there was, kind of like, okay, I'll make sure you're okay. And I don't carry anything on me. I don't have mace. I don't carry anything. I'm not going to carry a gun. I know salespeople who do. I don't.
Yeah, I know salespeople that do too.
Yeah, I mean, I have my concealed carry. I honestly, I don't know if I could ever shoot someone, so no. I don't really carry it, but
yeah, so it's like irrelevant. Like, I'm not going to shoot anybody. Yeah, so, hey, so you had mentioned that's a crazy story. You had mentioned that you had something. I don't remember what it was specifically, but you said you there's something heartwarming that happened to you, and I don't remember what it was, but you had mentioned something, and you were like, yeah, this story was so heartwarming, and I was trying to think about it. Do you remember what we were trying to say? What we were talking about?
There, I've had so many. There's a man named George. I can say his name now. He's passed away. George Vale. He was from Arizona. So while I was at Tundraland, George, they sent me to Arizona when they opened up a location in Arizona, and I met George in Arizona. Amazing, amazing man. He was in a wheelchair. He was a ex-Marine. He was over in Germany when they took the wall down, or I don't remember. He was protecting the wall. It was before they took it down. But anyway, so just a great guy. But he was in a wheelchair, and he couldn't get through his doors because his wheelchair was too wide, and he couldn't physically get through his doors to get to the other room. And all of his doors had big, huge, like, chunks taken out, because he was trying to get through the doors. And so while I was there, I took, I'm like, do you got a putty knife? Like, you got a hammer and a putty knife? And he's like, sure. And I'm like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. I'm going to take all this trim off your door. Like on the door, there's like an extra piece of trim.
Yeah. I know. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like a stop. I don't know. I don't sell doors. I sell windows. So
Yeah.
whatever that piece of trim is, there's a stop in the door. It's probably ½ inch on each side. So
Yeah,
I
half inch
took
on each
all
side. So took them
yeah,
off. Did
I
you?
took all of his stops off all of his doors so he could get through his doors because he physically couldn't get through his doors. And so George, just a great guy. He ended up so what we did as a company, Tunderland does Baths for the Brave every year.
Mm.
And so we gave him a free shower.
Oh,
And
that's great.
yeah, so George, the deal was I called, he found out he was getting it. And George had this massive collection of eagles and plates and all this stuff that's all he had. He didn't have
Yeah.
family. He only had this stuff. And George was like, Barb, you're coming out here. So they had to fly me out to, my husband and I flew out to Arizona, and we moved all of George's stuff because he would not let anyone touch it. So
Mm.
I went out to Arizona, and that was, oh gosh, that was right before COVID. Um,
Mm.
and so that was
So
like 2019, right?
I have a
Yeah.
question, and I don't know why this is important to me, but like in his house, like so, like when he's trying to get like through the hallways and stuff like that, were the narrow hallways and like then you like hard to turn like into the like was it like a setup like that? I don't know why this is important to me in my head.
No, he did have a lot of hallways. It was a condo, and it was basically a kitchen, open living room, and then he had a bathroom, and then there
But
was a
all the
bedroom.
doors, yeah, but all those doors had
Yeah.
those things on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were 3 or 4 doorways that
Hmm.
he just couldn't get through. So I took
And
all
this
that
was
trim off.
with this was also with Tundraland with the kitchens and baths
That,
or
that
the
was a
bathrooms.
Tunderland.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then so now you're at Renewal by Anderson and
Yeah.
you do windows. Now, this is a different model and I'll just speak to those people that don't really understand like so like in general in in-home sales like Renewal by Anderson's like the, very very popular company. They have
Yeah.
there's tons of reps all over the place. They have tons of companies in every single market and you're going to see it's like walking into a Walmart, right? You're going to have every walk of life is going to come through the door and get quotes on their, their windows. So I'm
Right.
sure you've got some fun ones here. Let me hear this. What is tell me, give me like a comedic one. What's sort of like the funniest happenstance story that you've run into in a house, especially because when you're out there, you're measuring the windows, you're sitting down, it's a premium, right? They're talking about spending all sorts of money because it's obviously not some rinky-dink company. It's got warranties and guarantees and all this kind of stuff. So I'd be interested to see what kind of tales you got there.
To be honest, it wasn't that long ago I recently switched. I was at Tunderland for almost 8 years, and
Oh,
I've only been here for 3 months. So I started,
so
is
go
it
back
3 or
then.
2?
Go
Yeah.
back to Tundra. Go back to it. What are some of the more comedic circumstances that you found yourself in?
Well, probably the funniest, I mean, it's funny, but not funny, was probably it's funny that all of them are Kohler walk-in tub. I sold a gentleman in Kenosha a walk-in tub, and he only had his underwear on. He did have a t-shirt. He had a t-shirt and underwear, tidy whitey underwear. And so when he first opened the door, it was like, oh, hey, like, oh my gosh, like, did you forget I was coming? And he's like, no, I didn't know, come in. And I'm like,
Oh
okay.
my God.
So we're sitting at his table, and he was sitting so that like I could see his whole body. Like it wasn't like he was behind the table. He was sitting, and it wasn't like he was doing anything. It wasn't perverted kind of thing. He was just a nice old guy, and he just
Come
kind
on,
of
come on, come
tell
on. Don't that sounds a little, come on. It's a little
he it
a
was
stranger walks into your house and you decide that you're not going to put a pair of pants on. Come
he
on.
didn't put pants on, and it,
Come
like I
on.
said, it
And
wasn't
then
it.
you calling him a nice guy. I mean, he knew you were there. You're obviously a
Yeah,
female. He doesn't put his pants on.
didn't put his pants on.
I mean, there's a problem there. You don't see a problem there, Barb? There's no problem, Barb?
Um, I didn't look at it like that, to be honest with you. I mean,
Come on.
I don't know
Barb,
what
come on.
I didn't. I sold him a tub. I don't know. I'm there to sell him something. I'm not, I mean, I've heard stories from other salespeople of stuff, but he was, like I said, these people with walk-in tubs, they're in their 70s and 80s. Like, it's not like,
Ah, okay.
now
Okay. This
if this
wasn't like
guy,
a middle-aged guy.
no,
This is like an
no,
old,
no,
okay. So he
no, no,
probably didn't
he was,
even know he had pants. He didn't even know he had pants anyway. He didn't
he
actually
might
know
not
he
have,
had.
he might not have even known. I thought when I went out to get my kit, like to bring in, I thought maybe he'd take that opportunity to put some pants on. And I came back in and like, oh, he's still in his underwear. But I'm sitting there the whole time and I'm just looking to myself. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, don't look down. Like, don't look down. Just don't look. No
Well,
matter what happens, don't look down.
now I'm
Because
on your thing. I think you're episode 11, and in the 11 episodes, I can tell you that the most common theme that in crazy things to happen in a house so far in this, on this podcast is people not wearing clothes, or people wearing limited clothes, or people barely wearing clothes, or people wearing
yeah.
revealing clothes inside of a house. So
Well, yeah,
everything
I think
from robes with nothing on underneath to nudist
I've had that too.
colonies.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
goodness. What is up?
Yeah.
But so I'm just saying, like, the average person, see, this is what people don't seem to understand, because they live in their little world that they're so comfortable in. They live in this, like, this box, and they don't understand there's a lot of lonely, weird, crazy people out there that love to get
Yeah.
quotes on everything from HVAC to bathroom tubs to flooring to windows to doors. And that's just the nature of the beast. And you don't know these things. You don't know these people, but these people are your neighbors. They're the neighbor that usually nobody talks to. They're the neighbor that walks down the block. You might wave to him and you're like, does that guy have kids? And they're like, nope, that guy doesn't have any kids. He lives alone. Those are the people. They have the time. You reminded me of something before. There was this guy. This is a little bit of a story, Barb. There was this guy who, my service technician was in the house. Then I got out there to do the estimate for the new system. The system was in the attic. The house was a little bit disheveled, a little bit of a mess. But as I'm walking up to the attic, I look over to my left and I see he has a gun out on the table. Now, it's not like I haven't been in houses with guns, but this house, the guy had the gun right out on the table.
Okay.
And I go upstairs in the attic and I'm like, okay, that's a gun on the table. So I walked back downstairs and I noticed that he's getting like really, really agitated.
Oh gosh.
And I don't really understand what's happening, but I do see that he clearly has pretty traumatic PTSD. He had a lot of plaques on the walls from military service and everything else, but he's starting to act really, really, really like, I'm scared. He starts to pant and breathe really heavily. He starts to just like, I'm talking like crazy, and I'm getting nervous. So I'm looking at the gun and I'm looking at him and I'm saying to myself, I need an exit strategy here.
Okay.
So I told him I was going to go and I'd, send him a quote, an email or whatever it was I was trying to get out of there. But he insisted, and he started to get like a little bit violent, like visually, like he was going to like. And so he goes, you're going to give me a quote. You're going to give me a quote right now. You're going to quote me right now. And he gets really angry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no problem. Oh, you want a quote? Okay. Like, just pacifying him. We sit down. I'm looking at the gun. I'm looking at the door. There's 2 doors. There's a window. I'm like, maybe I could jump out the window. There's 2 doors. The door, there's a screen door, and then there's a regular door. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? So I sort of make an excuse to get up and then open the door. Like, I'd be like, hey, it's kind of dark in here. Can I it was nice outside. So I made an excuse to go, I'm not going to open the door. He like watches me and I'm like, okay. And then I start to just, be really jovial, and whatever he said, I'm like, yeah, yeah, no, of course, of course. And as I'm leaving the house, he starts to calm down a little bit. And then I leave, and like I'm kind of waving to him. And like, I just remember thinking to myself, I was really close to probably never seeing like my kids again, like never seeing my wife again. Like
Right.
I just like, you don't know. Like, I mean, you just don't know in that situation. Like, you know, and I think that, you know, going back a ways, someone like you, been in so many houses, you probably don't even know how many situations you've been in where you don't know that person.
Yeah.
You don't know that person. And
Right.
my impression of you is that you're just a very genuine, very warm person. And, you know, so hopefully you kill him with kindness,
Yeah.
but yeah, but you've been doing it for 30 years. And now it's like, you walk
Yeah.
in, you do it. Yeah.
I think I don't think about those things, and I know, sure, yeah, I mean, I think that, there's situations that possibly could happen. I think there's people that, salespeople that, could be in situations. I don't know. I guess, um,
It's not
I
often.
have,
It's not often. Usually just a
yeah,
weirdo. Yeah,
yes,
usually it's like, oh, this is a weirdo. Oh, this person's kind of
yes,
strange, but usually there's nothing like, nefarious
right,
and, you know, yeah.
right.
Have you ever
I
had
think that
have you go ahead,
oh,
what?
sorry. I'll tell you. Okay, so this is a crazy story, and
Mm.
some people might not believe this story, but this is a story
Ooh, I
that's
believe it.
true,
I
and I
believe
can.
it.
Okay,
I
this is
believe it
probably
already.
this is probably one of the craziest. So another walk-in tub, a lady, sweet lady that lived in Fond du Lac, and um, in
I love these names of these towns
Fond du Lac, Fond du Lac, Fond du Lac. Yeah. So
in
all
Wisconsin. It's
they're
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
I live here. Is that backwards? That's how you say it. I live here. I'm going here. This is Chicago down here. So Green
Yeah.
Bay is here. Okay, so this lady in Fond du Lac, and she's Hispanic, wonderful, sweet lady. She had a lot of pictures of Jesus. I'm very spiritual. She had pictures of Jesus. This is a ghost story. If people don't want to hear about ghosts, then turn the channel, because you're going to hear a ghost story, because
This is the
this.
second ghost story that we've
Oh
had on
yeah,
this show. And
this is
if you
yeah.
go back and you listen to episode 1 with Phil Grego, he tells the craziest ghost story. Just a
Yeah.
little tidbit there. Good.
Okay. So we put in a walk-in tub for this lady. It's a house there in Fond du Lac, because I want to say that word again. So anyway, she just has a crawl space, but she had pictures of Jesus all over her house. Mary, Jesus. They're very spiritual, and so am I. And so I took a couple pictures, because we had to take pictures in the homes. And I get an orb, and I showed her. I said, "Wow, that's cool. There's an orb right by Jesus in this picture." And so we got to talking about spirits and ghosts. And yeah, some people don't believe in them. That's fine, whatever they want to believe in. But I know there are spirits. I don't. It's not ghosts. They're spirits. There's spirits everywhere. And if I have a lot of. There's people who don't believe in that. It's sacrilegious, whatever. But anyway, so this lady gets her walk-in tub installed, and the installers forget to put the panel on the back of the tub, and I think the spirits were pissed. So she was seeing shadow people. I get a phone call from her, um, like 7 or 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, and my husband is very spiritual. He actually has spirits communicating with him, because we're both very spiritual, and my husband has a neat gift of a spiritual gift, and he's able to communicate with them, or they
Mm.
communicate with him. So anyway, so she called me. She's freaking out. She's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm seeing shadow people. I'm hearing knocking, all these things. We run down to her house, and the same thing. There were, we experienced. I mean, I'm standing in this lady's house, and there's probably four of us, maybe five of us in the house. It was her, a couple friends of hers, my husband, and there's knocking, there's bells ringing, um,
While
all
you're
over.
there?
Like, oh yeah, oh yeah. So we're hearing the knocking, we're hearing the bells ringing, and I'm standing in the hallway right outside of where the tub was installed, and I'm just standing there, and all of a sudden I'm standing there with my hands down, and all of a sudden my hands just went up like that without me doing it. I was not, the energy in that house was just so high of energy in this house. There was definitely some spirits and they were not happy. And I don't fear any of that stuff because God protects, he's protecting me. So I'm not worried about it. So anyway, so they didn't put the backing on it. My husband found the back of the crawl the it's like the access panel. So he found the access panel. We put the access panel back on. It just like that, they're gone. So it was crazy. And I
What?
called her, yeah. They were
What?
not happy that the light was coming. So the light was getting down. So um she hadn't,
Oh,
I talked to her. I
did I miss something here?
No,
So
it's
the panel goes back on the tub,
yeah, the
right?
access panel
The
behind the
access
tub.
panel and behind the tub, so it's in the
Yeah,
wall.
it's correct. It was in the closet. So we
Uh,
put the access panel back on and they were happy because they were in the dark. They don't like the light. They don't like light. They want the darkness. I
and
talked to her like a month later and she's like, nope, she's still like, she's very religious. She believes, there's positive energy, there's negative energy. Um, and so that negative energy, they were, they're good now. They're go back to where they came from.
huh.
But that was a
Very
crazy story.
it is if you experience that, that's absolutely nuts.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up, and I would never, that's the one thing. You don't lie to customers, you don't make things up. But that's crazy. And like I said, and I truly believe, this is one thing I'll tell you, and I know a lot of people, I truly believe that I was given a gift from God for sales. I just believe that I was given a gift, and there's times like I won. Here's one of my trophies, Lombardi. It's an actual
That's cool.
Lombardi trophy. So this was 2018. So I think I have 7 trophies from, this is all Tundraland, top sales. Every year I was there, and and that when I get up, I'm humble about it. Like, you got to stay humble. You can't, there's guys I've been on teams that they're so cocky, and they get up there and, oh, I'm the best and I'm this and I'm, and no, I mean, you're sure, you can teach people sales, and you can teach them the sales, the model, you can teach them the tactics, you can teach them overcoming objections. But if you just treat people with just kindness and just genuine caring of, hey, I'm just here to help you. Like, I just want to help you get what you need and do it in the most genuine way that I can do it. And I truly believe if you do that, you're going to succeed.
Mm,
And again, I'm not knocking anyone who teaches sales training, because that's, sales training is great, but I truly believe I have a gift, and that's, and I don't, like I said, I stay very humble about it. I just know that that's God has me in these homes for a reason. There's
mm,
people, I'm in their house. I go in someone's house. Just last week I was in a guy's house, and I knew he wasn't going to buy, but his wife just died, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or a month ago or something, and we just sat and talked about her. And he
yeah.
actually texted me after, and he's like, I'm really sorry I'm not doing this project. And I said, you know what? Maybe that's not why I was at your house. You know, we just talked about, sometimes you're there you're there for another reason. And sometimes if I can't help them, sometimes there's another reason I might be there. And that might not make sense to some people. But I
Yeah, I
think
think
if
if you're
you have a
driven by
strong faith,
it does. To
yeah,
me it makes sense. I don't. Yes, I think faith might have something to do with it, but I actually think that you're onto something there too, and I think that this is a really important lesson. And this forum was not for business building or self improvement or anything like that. This is just to tell war stories. That's what
right,
this whole platform was for, right? And I'm glad that you shared this because I don't think we talk about it enough. But your story, what you just told, okay, about how you believe that you were kind of put here for a reason and you've been in front of, well, let's figure this out, right? You've run 500 sales calls a year for 30 years, right? I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's an insane amount of calls. I mean,
right,
you're talking about 15,000 people, right? So
right.
and that's not people, that's actually 15,000. So I think, how I would summarize what you just said, I'd say, when you're driven by a purpose, it it's you're intentional about
Right,
your conversations with people and you
right,
believe that you're there to serve them and they
right,
feel that, and you're probably really good at sales because you feel like you are driven by a purpose, like you're there to serve them. You're there, hey, I'm there to help you. I want to try to
right.
help you get this project done. I want to help you get this financed. I want to help you, make one of the biggest decisions of your life. Cause some of these projects, they're going to be some of the biggest purchases that these people are ever going to make in their whole life.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
I'm with you. I agree with
yeah.
you.
And I
Um,
don't think enough salespeople even look at it that way, because a lot of salespeople, and I know some amazing salespeople, but if you don't have a strong faith like I have, they might not understand it. But
I don't think
it's
it necessarily has to do with faith too. And my last guest
yeah,
had said something about this too. And I think it's good that you have the faith and it's good that you
yes,
influence people in a positive way. And I think that it's our job. Like I'm also, faith's very important to me. I'm not very open about it, but faith's important to me anyway. The whole point is, um, I think that when people see that without you being pushy, without you being, and you're directed by intentionality, I think that comes through in the wash, and I think you could be a very, very successful. Anything that you do could be successful because there's, I think that grace is involved. But
right.
all that aside, I'm really happy that you shared that, and I'm glad that there's people out there that you would make our industry or the sales industry shine in a better light, knowing that somebody like you has been doing it for as long as you have. And I'm happy that you came on here today. And so Barb, as we wind down, I would like
Yeah.
to pose a question that I asked for every single guest on the show.
Okay.
Um, what is the single most poignant call? Okay, sales call that you have ran
Okay.
that was the one that lingered with you the most, the one that stayed with you, the one that you carry with you wherever you go. Some maybe life lesson.
It would have to be George, probably George from Arizona. That I think I'll think of him the rest of my life. I mean, he's just such a genuine, and the guy was a cranky. I mean, I'm talking he was cranky. Like he didn't
Why
let
though? Why?
anyone have.
Why? So I understand, like you helped him get through his doors, and it's very heartwarming
Yeah.
the way that you worked with him. But why did he move you so much?
Um, I think. Sorry, I have a itch on my. Just because I think he was so angry at the world, and he was so, I could tell, like he didn't have any family, he didn't have anybody, and he was a very angry man, I could tell. But he and I just connected so well, and to be able to connect with somebody like him, that I knew he didn't have anybody else. And I would even call and text him even a year later. I found out that he passed away I mean, because I'm in Wisconsin and he's in Arizona, so it's not like, he's close, but
So, but
it,
what, but specifically, like, like, okay, so he was lonely, he was alone, he didn't have anybody, but specifically, what was it that has affected you so much?
probably because I could take somebody like George, who is so hard, and soften him up. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Because
transformation.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, he was tough. He was angry. He was bitter. He was just angry at the world. And for he and I to connect and share a bond. And when he was getting his bathroom done, he said, "I'm not gonna. The Barb has to be here. She
Mm.
has to be here, or I'm not doing it."
You changed his life, and then do you think, and I think that some of this also has to do with the fact that he's passed away now.
Right.
Like he had a moment before he died where that angry, cranky person kind of dissipated,
Right.
and you were the motivating factor. You were the factor in softening his heart.
I hope so. I mean, I hope that, I hope someday I see him in heaven, and I hope that I hope I changed him to know, because of his anger and because of how he was, I'm sure he didn't have a lot of people that even talked to him, because when you have that kind of anger, you kind of turn people off. And to be able to reach him and maybe soften him a little bit, and hopefully that helped him. It helped him realize that not everybody is bad. I mean, I was able to
Mhm.
connect to him, and I don't know, that's probably the one that will be with me forever, is George. And Monica. I love Monica too. She was a sweetheart.
Well, this has been really wonderful, Barb. I want to thank you so much for coming on and for sharing some heartfelt stories and your life. Really, you shared a lot about your life. Um, Really, thank you so much. Why don't you tell everybody, if I don't know if you want to plug your company, you want to have, if you want to reach you. If not, then you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm at Renewal by Anderson. We're Greater Wisconsin, and so we cover, the most part of Wisconsin, Green Bay, Appleton, all the way up north. But it is a great company. I love me. One thing I will say too is, when I sell something, because when I came here, I told Brian, I love Brian. He's my manager, owner now of Renewal by Anderson. Um, and he was my manager at Tundraland, so he and I had known each other years. But if I'm going to sell something, I'm going to sell the best. I'm not going to sell. I won't sell a low end product. When I sold flooring, I sold the best. I won't sell junk. I won't sell low quality, dollar a square foot laminate. If you want that, go to Menards. But if you want high quality, that's what I want. I demand that, because if you sell a high end product and you take care of your customers and you give good service, I don't have to worry about, like if I run into them at the grocery store, I don't have to worry about it, because I know that they're going to be taken care of if they buy
Mhm.
from me. I know for a fact if they buy from our competitor, they probably won't be as happy, because I know them, and I know they probably won't be happy. You know, if you get what you pay for, and if you want the best, yeah, that's just what I just won't sell anything but that.
Well, I appreciate you, Barb. Thank you for coming on, and be amazing. Continue to do what you're doing, and God bless you. All
Thank
right.
you. All
All
right.
right.
God bless
All
you
right. I'm going to
too.
make a couple of
All right.
announcements here. Bye, Barb. Um, So, first of all, guys, just want to point this out. Hey, this dog's looking this way, this dog's looking the other way, and this guy's saying, hey, what do you want from me? And they got this guy with the big white hair. Come on. All right. Um, so as I said in the beginning of the show, really excited to have a few guests on here from those behavioral modification schools, those basically uh, mind jails, whatever you want to call them. Really excited to have them on. They're going to tell their stories. So that's the next episode. I got a lot going on in the background. I'm talking to a lot of people. Reception's been amazing. I'm watching this podcast get more and more and more views and listens every single day. So I'm really, really grateful and thankful for you guys. So until next week, we will see you.